Oh, hello again. It's getting towards the Christmas period, and this story I wrote a few years back. A contact told me that the BBC, Netflix, ITV, all the major TV companies were desperate for ideas for programs, and I thought this story would make an excellent ghost story for Christmas. So I sent it off to all of them. And you know what? I never heard from any of them. As I've said before, when I die, everything I've ever written will be just thrown away. So this is for you. Sit down round your fires with a nice glass of something and a mince pie and enjoy. I hope you like it. It's called Christmas Solitaire. Read by me, written by me, copyright by me, Al Donaldson. Christmas Solitaire. 1 week before Christmas. The phone rang and rang till someone answered. A strained and tired voice said, "Hello? Hello, Jeremy. It's Harrison." "Harrison?" "Yes, it's your Uncle Harrison." "Oh, Harrison, how are you?" "Well, thanks. I was just wondering whether you had a thought about coming for Christmas dinner." "Oh, I'll have to speak to Denise. Hold on." Harrison stood with the phone to his ear. It was remarkable how technology allowed one to hear distant conversations so clearly. "It's Harrison on the phone. He wants to know if we are going to his for Christmas dinner." Why is he phoning now? It's a week before Christmas. Harrison realized that his invitation in October had not been passed on to Jeremy's wife. "Who's on the phone?" asked Sharon, their 15-year-old daughter. "It's Harrison. He's asking if we want to go to his for Christmas Day." "Oh, I can't be asked," she replied. "I'll speak to him," Denise said. "Uncle Harrison, how nice to hear from you. You should have given us more notice. We've got so much planned here. Maybe next year. Merry Christmas." And the phone went down before Harrison could say, "I asked you in October. Merry Christmas to you too, and thanks for an invite to your Christmas dinner." It seemed to sum up the entire next generation. Selfish and apathetic. I can't be asked. Maybe it boded well for the planet. One day the next generation would be in charge of everything. He imagined a world where there was a potential for global conflict, and someone asked, "Should we mobilize the troops and go to war?" And the answer from the leaders would be, "I can't be asked." Maybe then peace would spread throughout the planet. Harrison sighed and put the phone down. He'd been sure they'd come this year. Looks like it's plan B. The telephone took an age to answer. "Hello, Nightingale's Retirement Home." "Oh, hello. My name's Harrison Foster, and I was inquiring about your advert regarding your spare chair at Christmas scheme." Uh, Thanks for phoning, but all our residents are now catered for." "Oh, that's good to know." Harrison paused. I was wondering whether you know anyone that has a spare chair for me. I'd be grateful. I could even bring my own food." The silence made Harrison wonder if he'd been cut off. "Hello? I'm afraid we could only find spaces for our own residents, and to be truthful, it was pretty hard work finding anyone to take them. We found the last place only a few minutes ago." "So you've got no one I could have Christmas dinner with then?" "No." It was Harrison's turn to be silent, excuse me, until he eventually asked, "Would you like to come round here for Christmas dinner? I could supply everything, or I could come to you. Sorry, we all have our own families. Good luck and Merry Christmas." And with that, the Nightingale's retirement home hung up. Harrison had no plan C. Christmas Day. Have I ever told you about that 10-year-old Merceau? Harrison carried the silver cutlery to the table and started to lay them. No? Well, the company I worked for found a few cases of Merceau tucked away behind something in their cellars. They'd forgotten all about that, about both them. He looked at the knife, saw a blemish, and breathed on it, and then gave it a polish with a cloth, and placed it on the table. He looked and realized that it wasn't straight, and he moved it till it was. Well, they realized that he was 10 years old, and white wine, doesn't last that long. I said, "Look, I'll buy them. 3 cases, staff discount as well." Harrison disappeared into the kitchen and came back with 6 side plates. Of course, the chap in charge of our cellars was new. He thought he'd pulled a flanker on me, thought I'd gone soft in the head. A white wine over 10 years old, undrinkable, he thought. He hadn't realized I'd already tried a bottle. He brought out 2 silver candelabra and placed them in the center of the table. The Merceau couldn't have been any better. It was like drinking melted butter. They were beautiful. Must have been worth a fortune, and I drank them all. Harrison sighed. He preferred talking to himself and to them. The ghosts were close. He could feel them. They always turned up at Christmas time. And I can still remember what they tasted like 30 years later. Harrison deposited 6 seasonal napkins on 6 side plates and placed 6 Christmas crackers in front of each place. He placed some sprigs of holly randomly around the table and draped some Christmas ribbon around the candelabra and lit the candles. The light danced off the cut crystal wine glasses. Harrison stood back to admire his handiwork. Good, very good. "Would you like a drink? I'm just going to open a bottle, have a pre-dinner drink before the oven goes ping." Harrison didn't wait for an answer and popped the cork. He smiled at the satisfying glug sound as the liquid filled his glass. He sipped the red wine. "My, that is good." He smacked his lips. "Nice little wine from Chile. You sure you don't want some? No? Well, more for me then." The doorbell rang. Whoever's that? Harrison got up and made for the door. "Merry Christmas, Harrison. Can't stop. Just popped round to deliver your card. Don't you want to pop in for a Christmas drink?" "No, the family's waiting. See you after Christmas. Bye." Harrison looked on as his neighbour scurried away. He managed to shout Merry Christmas after him, and his neighbour half turned and raised his arm in salute. He returned to the table. That was my neighbour, with a card. He opened it. "Merry Christmas from Bob, Marjorie and family." Harrison smiled. That was nice of them. Get one every year. Never see much of them during the year. In fact, I can't remember seeing his wife for at least 3 years. so I assume she's still alive. He drained his glass and was just about to pour another one when the oven clock pinged. Here we are. Hope you're all hungry. He returned with a modestly sized piece of beef. I'll carve, shall I? He didn't wait for an answer. He cut up the meat and returned with terrines filled with roast potatoes, carrots, and sprouts. I do love sprouts. He filled his plate. Would anyone like gravy? He offered the boat. No? Good-o, more for me. He poured another glass of wine and tucked the napkin into the top of his shirt. He pulled a cracker, took out the festive hat and put it on his head, raised his glass and toasted the table. Merry Christmas to us all. He looked down the table at the 5 empty spaces and sighed. Harrison sat at the head of the table as he always did and looked at the empty seats. Yet again, Harrison was by himself for Christmas. Did I ever tell you the time I discovered some very old whiskey? No? Well, I was clearing my wife's uncle's cottage. The clever man had been a bursar at some university. When he retired, he'd been astute enough to buy himself a cottage next to a pub, so he didn't have far to walk when they opened or stagger back when they closed. Harrison finished off the bottle and opened another. Would you like some? He asked of no one in particular. No? More for me then. He tasted the red wine and smacked his lips and said, It's getting better. This beef is excellent. Now then, where was I? Oh, yes. Well, we pulled out all the furniture and I noticed a trap door in the kitchen. We prized it up and guess what? Steps were leading down to a cellar and it was full of bottles. And the funny thing was, he never knew it was there, because if he had, he'd have drunk them all. Harrison chuckled. At the end of the table, a fog developed into a form. Harrison screwed his eyes shut, blinked several times, and studied the now recognizable shape. I feel really hard done by. Oh, hello, Uncle Mostyn. I was just talking about your cottage. I know. I feel really peeved that I never found that cellar. Kindly shut up and let me get on with the story. Uncle Mostyn snorted down his nose in acceptance. Now then, where was I? Oh, yes. We went down and there were all these bottles. Some really good names like Rothschild and Margot. But there were these strange bottles without a label, and they had odd stoppers. I took a few samples down to Christie's in London, and the wine expert told me what they were and what they were worth. The last bottle I brought out for him to look at made his jaw drop. He stammered he had to get a second opinion, and I heard him running down the corridor. He came back with another chap in tow and stammered, Look, look! They both sat down and gazed in awe at this bottle. I said, Well, what on earth is it? This expert said, You must open it to ascertain the quality, and proceeded to pop the stopper and pour a tiny amount in a glass. It looked and poured like treacle. They ran it around the glass and sniffed it. I've never seen chaps orgasm, but I think I came very close that day. The bottle contained whiskey, at least 200 years old. One of the experts said, If this bottle was empty, a bottle collector would pay £1,500 for it. But as it's full, it's worth thousands. I said, Goodo, I've got 36 bottles. They sold for £196,000. What a result! Yes, we bought this lovely house on the strength of that sale, didn't we, Harrison? Hello, Anne. Harrison smiled. Yes, we did. How have you been? Oh, you know, tottering about, getting older, and under people's feet. He picked up the bottle and offered her some. Anne smiled and shook her head. It's the same old, Harrison. I hope you are not going to be boorish this year. Harrison turned his head. Oh, it's you, Bennett. Boorish? Me? How can one be boorish when one has had a satisfying life? Bennett, stop teasing, Anne said. Don't mind him, Harrison. He's just full of himself. Why did you leave me, Anne? Why did you have to leave me for Bennett? She was too good for you, said a croaky voice further down the table. A woman materialized. She looked like she enjoyed chewing pan scrubs. Oh, hello, Margaret. I wonder when you were going to get here. Thanks for your sisterly support. It's true. She was indeed too good for you. She deserved better than you. Steady on, old girl. You know blood is thicker than water and all that. Hello, Dickie. Nice to see you. You were the best brother-in-law I could possibly have had. And you, old sport. And you. I've got a nice burgundy here. Fancy a drop? Sorry, old sport. Goes straight through me these days. Harrison and Dickie laughed at the joke. Shame. It's a good one. Is it? Oh well. One day, maybe. How are you, Margaret? Harrison drained his glass and poured some more. Very well, Harrison. When are you going to join us? Don't know, old girl. Maybe soon. One day. Who knows? Fancy a drop? Margaret shook her head. Harrison turned back to Anne. Anne, why did you leave me for Bennett? Look, Harrison, we've been through this so many times. I've lost count. I felt Bennett loved me more. No one could have loved you more than me. You say it, but I felt Bennett meant it more than you. Bennett, you were my best friend. Why did you steal my wife? Look, sorry about that, old chap. It was a bit like asking why you'd want to climb the Matterhorn, and that chap said, because it's there. And furrowed her brow. So you're comparing me to a mountain. Well, thank you very much, Bennett. Harrison smiled at the altercation he'd created and drained his glass. He looked for the joke that had fallen out of the Christmas cracker and read it. Question. Why does Father Christmas have a dreadful sex life? Harrison looked up at the blank faces. No one answered. Answer. He only comes once a year, and that's down a chimney. Bennett smiled. Dickie and Mostyn chuckled, and Margaret sat po-faced. You made that up, Harrison. That's not the real joke, Anne said. Everything is a real joke, Anne. Everything. I see you're on your own again for Christmas, Harrison, Margaret said with relish. Thank you for noticing, Margaret. Yes, I am on my own again this year. No one wants him. He bores the pants of everyone, Mostyn said. Margaret laughed. Who wants to spend Christmas with a bore? You do, Mostyn. You do. I always enjoyed Harrison's stories, said Dickie. I won't do the voice. You were too drunk to understand them. Fell asleep halfway through and only woke up at the end, chided Margaret. Everyone laughed except Harrison. Pudding time, I think. Harrison emerged from the kitchen with a large Christmas pudding. He poured a generous amount of brandy over it. I've always been fond of brandy. And me, old sport. And me, Dickie said. Margaret looked at Dickie and snorted down her nose. Harrison wolfed down his portion of Christmas pudding and refilled his brandy glass to the top. You should take things easy, old bean, Dickie said. You're turning into Mostyn. What do you mean, turning into me? Well, you did like your drink, Mostyn. You only returned to your cottage, when the pub closed. Mostyn's smile spread across his face. It was pretty clever of me to live next to a pub. First one in at 11 a.m, last one out at 3 p.m, first one in at 5 p.m, and last one out at 11 p.m. Some of them are now open 24 hours now. Mostyn, Harrison said. Mostyn's face lit up. Are they? Oh, what I'd give to live again. Like I said, continued Dickie, you're turning into Mostyn. You say that every year. What's the point of having lovely things to eat and drink if you're too frightened to enjoy them? Yes, I agree, but I never got the chance to sample those bottles in my cellar. Harrison took a swig from his brandy glass. Remind me, after you'd murdered me, where was I buried? I asked. Harrison looked lovingly at Anne. In the rose garden, a beautiful spot in the summer. The scent from the roses is overpowering. And me, where did you bury me? Asked Bennett. You're where you'll do the most good. You're under the compost heap. No chance of you smelling of roses, old sport, Dickie said. I'm now going to sit down in front of the television to watch some quality Christmas programs, Harrison announced. Some hope, Margaret said. They're all repeats. Look, I'm going to watch TV, and when I wake up, you'll all be gone. So I'll wish you all a very Merry Christmas and see you at the next one. Harrison paused for thought. Unless I die in my sleep, so when I wake up, you'll all still be here. Correction, old sport. You'll not wake up if you die. Harrison stuck his tongue out at Dickie. Even so, a Merry Christmas to you all. Harrison settled down in his easy chair. He picked up the remote and switched on the television. The film was The Wizard of Oz. Harrison took a slurp of brandy and settled back down. Anne, Bennett, Margaret, Dickie, and Uncle Mostyn looked at him. Harrison's eyes grew heavier. He drained his brandy glass and set it on the coffee table. His eyes grew heavier and heavier. Merry Christmas to us all, he said, before he drifted off to sleep. Hope you like that. Just in case you don't know what a spare chair is at Christmas, it's where someone is on their own, having got a family, and they're always hoping that maybe a neighbour has got a spare chair that he or she can sit and be with a family, so they're not going to be on their own for Christmas dinner. If you don't know of this, or even if you do, think of a neighbour who's on their own. He or she hasn't got a family, and they're probably going to have baked beans on toast and it's not very nice. But if you've got a spare chair, invite them round. Even if you don't see them that often, it'll make their year. Anyway, as I said, this story turned down by everybody, and so it's dedicated to you. I've now got over 5,000 subscribers, and I'm so grateful. Thank you so much indeed. And I'll try and get another story in before actual Christmas Day. I have a lot of Christmas stories. So enjoy. All the very best to you now. Bye-bye.